Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to get into my review of the new Charlotte Tilbury Fire and Rose palette. I finally got it in my collection. It took forever for it to ship. I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. So I finally have it. I'm very excited to share it with you guys. She also launched 2 new shades in the Eyes to Mesmerize. So if you guys have been with me for a minute, you guys know that the Eyes to Mesmerize is one of my favorite creamy eyeshadow formulas. The Eyes to Mesmerize are $32 each, and I picked up both shades, which it comes in Sunset Rose and Copper Sunrise. Okay, so those are those 2 shades. And then the palette is obviously one of her new quads, and this retails for $53. These are all 3 listed as limited edition items that launched on her website. Fire and Rose palette is described as a color-coded eyeshadow palette of seductive flame-toned rose shades to make you stand out from the crowd this holiday season. So as you guys know, I have a lot of Charlotte Tilbury in my collection. Charlotte Tilbury is one of my favorite brands, and I have a lot of palettes, which I will be comparing this palette next to a lot of other different palettes, which I will put that up in the swatches part of the video. But this shade right here, which is the topper shade, this shade right here, it has a very unique glass-like. It's very, very different than anything I have. I mean, I have swatched so many of her finishes, and this one is just very unique. She calls this the intense super pop shade, shines with multi-reflecting pigments to give a glamorous sparkle and luxurious skin feel. So that one is definitely unique. Based on this quad, I just don't have anything like this from Charlotte Tilbury. It's very glass-like. I mean, you can see just how reflective this is. But in the video, I try on both shades of the Eyes to Mesmerize and kind of give you tips and tricks on how I make the Eyes to Mesmerize work for me. And then I wipe all of that off, and then I come back on camera and I create a look using this new Fire and Rose palette. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the 2 tutorials using these products. Then we will get into the swatches, and then I will jump into my final thoughts. Okay, so before we jump into the palette, I want to show you guys what these 2 new shades look like from the Eyes to Mesmerize. So I have Copper Sunrise and Sunset Rose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply one on each eye so you can see what they look like on the eye. Now, here's the key with the Eyes to Mesmerize. For me, this has been very important. So because it is a creamy texture, it's not super creamy. It does dry down, but because it's a creamy texture, if you want it to last all day long, the key with these is to, first of all, prep your eyelids. I like to go in, put on my eyelid primer, and then set it with powder. So I like to personally use the setting powder from Charlotte Tilbury, the finishing powder. It's a nice powder that will kind of lock the oils down on the eyelid. So once I've prepped my eyelids with any type of eyelid primer, I like to go in and set it with some sort of powder. And once I've done that, the trick is to not use too much. If you apply too much, then you run the risk of it lifting or separating or whatever. I don't know if this is recommended for those who have an oily eyelid. I would say if you have an oily eyelid, I would probably avoid a product like this and maybe just stick with the products that come in, you know, like a doe foot applicator that have a little bit more of a wet texture versus a creamy, because the wet seems to dry and set down. The creamy does. This formula does, but I feel like if you have oily eyelids, it might not be the right formula. I also like to use a natural haired brush. You don't have to use a natural haired brush, but I prefer it. So let's go ahead and put Copper Sunrise on this eye. So this is what it looks like when it's down inside the tub. So what I like to do is pick up some of the product, and I will probably use this all over the lid. Just start applying it. Kind of spread it out evenly. And then once I have it set on the lid itself, I will take my finger and run it across and kind of just make sure that it's nice and smooth and it's in place. You know, you don't want any thick chunks on there. You don't want too much product sitting in one area. So it's nice to go kind of in with your finger and just make sure that you're picking up any extra product. And then I like to take whatever's left on the brush and bring it out into the crease. I'll flip the brush around on the dry side that doesn't have any product on it and just go in and just kind of blend it out. It's really, really easy to use. You just have to be mindful of don't use very much. Less is definitely more with a product that's like this. Sometimes if I want a little bit more definition, I will go into a palette and pull like a matte shade and go into the crease and kind of deepen things up where I want it. But other times I will totally just wear these alone, and they look so beautiful and they're so easy to wear that I just love them. They're very easy. They're one of my like just easy kind of one and done type of product. So let me show you how you can put some matte shades over top of it. So I'm just gonna grab my Pillow Talk. This is the larger Charlotte Tilbury Instant Pillow Talk palette. And I'm gonna grab this shade right here in the palette. And I'm just gonna sweep this into my crease. So see, you can do it without, or you can add some matte to it and really bring it to life. Now I'm gonna grab this shade right here. I'm gonna add some of that here on this outer corner. I mean, totally leave it like that, finish the lash line, put some mascara on, and you're done. It's a very soft shimmer where it's not super shimmery. Some of the shades are a little bit more shimmery. So let's move on to Sunset Rose. Now I've already took the tip off because I used that to swatch it. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit here. Now, if you dip your brush down in there and you think you got too much, wipe your brush off on the side of it. I'm just gonna go in and place this color on. Okay, I'm gonna wipe the tip of the brush off because you see I have a little bit of a brush mark right there. See where it's built up? You want to get that out and blend it out before it dries. Okay, so I'm going to go back into this palette. I'm going to grab this first shade right here in this palette. I'm going to bring that out here on this outer corner and kind of just make sure and blend it into the shimmer. Now, of course, I think these look obviously prettier once you get your mascara or whatever you've got going on, whether you're going to put lashes on or whatever. I just think they look better once you get everything done, but they are very, very pretty. And, you know, it does take a minute to kind of get used to them. But once you get it and once you understand how to use the product, it's very, very easy. So this is what both of them look like. Obviously, it would look a lot better once I put, you know, mascara on and finished my makeup. So when I wear these up here on the top, I always go in, for example, I will go in and grab, you know, just a matte that would correspond with the shades that I'm wearing here on the lower lash line. So, you know, it will really pull it together once you get the rest of your makeup on, and it just looks very soft and very pretty. So it depends on, you know, what you're wearing these for, and you don't have to bring these into the crease if you're somebody that just wants the shimmer on the lid. You can totally just place it on the lid, blend out those edges where you're gonna stop, and then go in with any of the matte shades that you're looking to use. If you get into a situation where you feel like it's not fully blended and you can see little gaps. If you do go into a shade in your, collection, like a matte shadow that matches some of the tones in these eyes to mesmerize, then you can use those mattes to kind of fill in those gaps. So those are some of the tips that I've learned, from using these. So that's it for the tutorial using both of these two eyes to mesmerize shades. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off this eye makeup. When I come back, we're going to jump into the palette. So I will be right back. Okay, so let's jump into this palette, which it is very pretty, and I'm very curious about this shade. I was wondering what this shade would be. Would it be burgundy? Would it be, and it does look to be burgundy. It doesn't really have much of a red base. It has more of like a deep maroon shade undertone, maybe more of a plum undertone. Like it. I really, really like this shade. And sorry for the color of my nails. Somebody has already pointed out that it doesn't really go with my skin tone. So we're stuck with them for another 2 weeks because I just got my nails redone. We're going to go into this shade right here. And I am just going to basically kind of like prime the lids and kind of put that all over the lid. It's sparkly, but in a very soft way. Like, the shade is very, very pretty, and it's got some glitter in it, but it's so finely milled that it doesn't just look like a chunky glitter sitting on the lid. It's very smooth. I'm gonna move on to a blending brush, and I'm gonna grab this really pretty shimmer on the top row, and I'm gonna use that right out here on this outer corner. Dang, that shade's pretty too. Oh, it's so pretty. That is a really pretty shimmer shade. This shimmer shade, gorgeous. It is so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna grab the matte shade with my pencil brush and just deepen this outer corner, but this shade is pretty pigmented. So I'm gonna wipe the pencil brush off and I'm gonna blend out the product that I have on the eyelid. Okay, so I went ahead and threw on some concealer, and now I need to buff out this line and also put some color on the lower lash line. So I think I'm actually going to go straight into the shimmer, this one right here, and I'm going to bring that on the lower lash line. It is such a beautiful shade, like so pretty, and it's super pigmented. You do have to be careful with it because it's got a lot of pigment. Okay, and then I am going to take a flat definer brush and I'm going to go into this maroon shade, the matte right here. And I'm going to smoke that into the lower lash line. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the upper waterline right here at the base. Just give some of that definition out there. Now I'm going to take my finger into this really pretty sparkly shade. Place it right here. Oh my gosh. Look at that. I mean, you can see the pop that that gave. So this, before I add it on this side, you can see that shade really has a beautiful glass-like texture to it. It is literally like glass. It's so pretty. That formula feels a little different than what we're used to. I mean, look at that. So, you know, Charlotte Tilbury's quads are known to having these like really pretty topper shades. This one's a little different. This one is like really metallic-y, and it's very pretty, and it doesn't feel like it's going to get hard panned. It might get a little bit hard panned, but if you have a Charlotte Tilbury quad, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes her like sparkly like topper shades, sometimes they get so hard panned that you have to kind of scrape your finger along them to kind of break them up, or put a piece of tape over top of it and kind of lift that film that's pressed it down. This feels a little bit different. This doesn't feel quite like the other shades that I have. Let's see what it would look like on the inner corner. I'm just kind of in the mood to play with that shade because it's just so pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna take a pencil brush and I'm gonna go into that Glass Lake shade. Oh yeah, that shade is gorgeous. Okay, so I went ahead and finished the rest of my makeup. This is the final look, and I think this look turned out so pretty. It just looks really pretty, and these shades are gorgeous. I love the shine that it has. I love the depth that you can build, and I love the way that this turned out. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it was very easy too. It didn't take me very long to do it. Let's go ahead and jump into the swatches and comparisons to many of my palettes that I have in my collection from Miss Charlotte Tilbury, and then we will jump into my final thoughts. Okay, so now that we've made it through the tutorials and the swatches, let me go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. I love this palette. I don't think it was a secret throughout the entire time I was playing with it. I love this palette. I love it. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it just has one of those really easy color stories. And I think this palette, because of this shade, has a lot of depth, and it would be gorgeous on a deeper skin tone. I also think that these shades would work great for, you know, a lighter skin tone. It just depends on if you like that burgundy tone. Such a beautiful palette. I've always said that my favorite quad is the Exagerize, but I'm starting to see that this might be my new favorite. This is beautiful. This shade right here blew me away. It's so icy and glass-like and so different from anything we have from Charlotte Tilbury. And as you saw in the swatches, yes, I have some similar shades, you know, to maybe this shimmer shade right up here. You notice that like Dolce Vita and Walk of Shame was kind of similar to the top shades. But these shades, like, I could not find one matte that was even close to this tone in this Fire and Rose. And there is absolutely nothing like this in my collection from Charlotte Tilbury. So this palette is an A+. I think this is so, so, so pretty. And if this was on your list to look at picking up, I don't think you'll be disappointed. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. And I'm excited to use it again. It's one of those palettes that I will take with me on vacation. I loved the way that the shimmer blended into the crease. I loved the tone of the matte and the way that it added such depth. But this shade, though, I think that was the most surprising for me. It's gorgeous. It's so, 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 so pretty. I also really like both of these shades. I definitely liked the copper one a little bit more on my skin tone because I do reach for those like golden kind of peachy undertones. But Copper Sunrise did look a lot like the rose gold. So if you're somebody that already has the rose gold, this one is the new one, the Copper Sunset, and this is the rose gold. They're kind of similar. The only difference is this one is more golden, this one's more rose. But they do look very similar. So I don't know. It depends on what you're, wanting or needing in your collection. I'm very happy to have them. I think they are very pretty, and I'm slowly kind of building my collection when it comes to the Eyes to Mesmerize. Rose Gold was the first one I ever bought, and you can see that I've used quite a bit of it. I've reached for this over and over. It's just a really pretty product, and I've probably had this, you guys. I'm probably going on 2 years since I bought this, and it has not dried out at all. It's still as creamy as it was the day I bought it. So that's what I also like. As long as you keep the lid screwed on tight, it doesn't seem like you'll have any issues with them drying out. So those are my final thoughts on this new holiday collection from Charlotte Tilbury. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in my next video. Love you. Bye.